And just like that, happy Monday, everybody. God, another week. And we're in December, which means it's legit. Put your trees up wherever you want, probably up in your lounge, but whatever. Considering our second guest, God only knows where you're going to put your trees, but it's none of my business. Anyway, you know him. You kind of love him. Well, you've got to love him. I mean, you just, I don't know. It's Neil Long, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, and welcome to the show.
Oh, welcome to the show, and you are welcome to it. That's what I say.
Thank you. Well, I won't be taking it anywhere.
The background's almost working.
Almost.
It's almost. I think you need to adjust the fading very, very slightly.
We will. We'll have a little fiddle.
Just with the fading on that. And straight away.
Crazy name. Crazy gal. Eve Phantom.
Hello to you.
Scary as hell. Right. Who else we got? Oh, all the way from Houston in Texas.
Julie Voice.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Kane and Mr. Long. And your pal, who's now Pal O Show,
RVB.
of course, is Robert Van Buren, who should be American, but probably isn't. Now, I was chatting to our first guest just a moment ago, and he's got, you know, when you open the curtains and it's grey and it's just shit outside, and you think, ugh. He's got the perfect surroundings. And we were having a chat. Oh, and let's dash across straight away to New York, to Manhattan. Elizabeth Green, good morning. Damn, it's early. Yeah, Elizabeth. That's how it kind of works, sweetheart. From Christ knows where, it's Sam Monroe. Hello, folks.
Excellent.
And M. If you're going to spell bonjour, darling, spell it properly. Bonjour. Oh, God almighty. I have to do everything. Oh, look at this. He is a mighty brain and mighty powerful, Mr. Ramsey Y. Masalam. No meetings, so I thought I'd dial in. Have a good week, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much. And somebody called Liz Saul. Never heard of her. Hello, Liz. And that sounds good. Right, let's bring on... God, you're so professional. And from Northwest London, ladies and gentlemen, Francine Warner. She of the immaculate toilet paper. I'll say no more. Right, let's bring on our first guest in the coziest place you've ever seen. You know, if you had to have central casting, and the great Bobby Warrens of the BBC, my mate for many years, who does all the props for Strictly and all the props for every show you've ever seen, he would create this home. Ladies and gentlemen, Alistair Creamer is in the house.
Hello, Alistair.
Well, hello, Neil. Hello, Russ.
Look at that set. Is that setting not say, ooh, let's have a cup of hot chocolate and a little whiskey?
Actually, what you have behind me is some of my festival hats. So I'm a big
right.
music festival goer. And this one, which I won't wear, but it looks very Robin Hood-like.
Very much so.
And it's still got the mud on it, as you can see. Was from a rather muddy Glastonbury.
You went to Glastonbury
10 years ago.
Oh, well, right. But I was about to say, I don't want to be rude, but on the other hand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, what were you doing there? Were you on the main stage?
No.
Were you the drummer with Hawkwind or something like that back in the day?
Exactly.
It's the sort of thing that happens, you know. Oh yeah, I used to play when Nick Mason wasn't well. I played for Floyd.
As you do.
I'd be very privileged, by the way.
It's funny. I interviewed Nick Floyd, drummer for Pink Floyd from day one. Is a huge petrol head, as you know. Massive classic car collection, including a Ferrari 250 GTO worth, at the last reckoning, about 20 mil, just one car, possibly more actually. And I interviewed. We were doing banger racing, and we just started chatting about cars. He was absolutely. I'm not a Pink Floyd fan at all. Can't stand them, but I'm a big petrol head, and we got on great. He was charming. Right, there we are. Alice, Andy. I want. Why have I got Andy? I'm going completely mad. Yes, let me take that off. Jeez, I'm going nuts.
Someone else.
Right, I don't know. That's just me. Forget it. Right.
Okay.
Tell us all about yourself, Alistair. I don't know what happens.
Well,
God, never get old. Alistair, never get old.
No, I'm not old.
No, but don't, because then you put up the wrong banners. Jesus Christ. Tell us all about yourself.
Okay. So I'm quick potted history. I was a classical musician, actually, throughout my whole education.
See, wasn't that
Then
wrong, was I? What a good
I
guess.
was very close. Pink Floyd,
uh.
almost, but not quite. And then I gave it all up, actually, kind of quite interestingly. So, I played violin, piano, accordion till the age of 21. And then I
Blimey.
just sort of dropped it and moved
Wow.
into lots of other things. And I think there's a really interesting lesson there about you're on a certain route in life and then suddenly you zig or you zag.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I got into lots of other things. But broadly speaking, my career has been in 3 areas. So it's running arts organizations, it's been in business, and it's been in higher education. And I now do 2 things. So I now work on culture, actually, for large businesses. How do they do what they do? And that's becoming, interestingly, for the younger generation, one of the most important considerations. After pay, just underneath it is, and what's this place actually like? Will I enjoy it? And coming out of the pandemic now, when we've been so remote, that's a really important thing. So that's number 1. And number 2 is I do this work around purpose and personal purpose. What's my direction in life, which is, I think, the thing that we're probably going to touch on today.
I misread that. I thought you worked at SeaWorld and you worked with porpoises. Okay, moving on. Thank you. It's Monday. I'm here all week. Try the chicken. Don't forget to tip your waitress. First of all, let's get back to corporate, because my whole background is actually corporate. I did a lot of light entertainment writing, but my love was corporate writing. I enjoyed it more, taking an incredibly dull subject and making it entertaining. That was kind of the key to what I did for many, many years. And I was always fascinated, Alistair, with corporate culture. You could tell within 3 minutes of arriving if the place sucked or if the place was good. If the boss at the top was a dick, or the boss at the top really understood what they were about and was embracing the whole workforce. It was quite extraordinary. Never failed.
No. And the thing is, Russ, I say this to the people I work with. You walk into, let's say, the old days, an office, reception. You could sit in reception whilst you're waiting for your person to come down, and you would get the whole picture of that business within minutes. How people interact with the reception, order a coffee, breeze past without acknowledging other people. You get a feel immediately.
I used to write so many training videos, and I want to see how this resonates with you. I mean, in the days, I was very lucky. I got right on the crest of that, right at the beginning of it. So I became the go-to guy. Luck, really, rather than skill. And just right place, right time. And I would do things for like, do you understand that your company, and I'm talking about huge blue chip companies, I'm not talking about ma and pa coffee shops, is judged from the moment a guest or a would-be supplier or customer arrives at the security gate. And I wrote these sort of dramas where the security guard would be offhand. So by the time you've even got to reception, you're pissed off because he's upset you. So the meeting's going to go bad. It was. You're so right, Alistair. I'm pleased you said that.
The rhythm, Russ, I think goes like this. You have your strategy, your ambition. This is what we do, and you talk about it up there. You then have to have your You then have your behaviors. Well, how do we want to behave? How do we actually want to do the job in order to deliver that ambition? But then what you need, exactly to your point about the security guard, is you need these signals that support the behaviors, that reinforce the behaviors. So if the signal is to your security guard, welcome everybody with a smile, have their name on a list, they're probably here to do good rather than to do bad. And it gives you a signal. This is how they operate. They're open, they're welcoming, and it leads up to your ambition. So that's how it works.
Let me ask you something. I want to bring it back, if I can, to and as everybody knows, we've never chatted before, so these things just happen. But the whole ethos of Men's Radio Station and Women's Radio Station, but Men's is mental health and well-being. I have a view, and I would really like your expert opinion on this, that so many of I'm talking about large corporations, have jumped on, and this goes against everything I stand for, but and we have as a company, jumped on the mental health bandwagon and say, oh, yes. And they go to all these wonderful, huge conferences that I've attended. And they go, oh, yes, we have a mental health first aiders. And I go up to the people afterwards because I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. Too old and I'm too tired. And they go, well, how much training have they had? Well, we give them a whole day's course. And I mean, this isn't mental
I know
health
someone in the
first
corporate
aiding.
world.
This is nonsense.
I know someone in the corporate world that said, sorry, I come alive. That said, hello,
I'm
Alistair.
sorry, Nick. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, not at all.
I'm
Not
just
at all.
very
I didn't want
passionate.
to
I'm
think
just
I was
very
mute.
passionate about this. As
No.
you know,
I
Alistair is
didn't,
as well.
didn't want anyone thinking I was mute. But I know people that in that corporate culture. It's like, I wouldn't let that person go within 10 miles of my mental health.
Precisely. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. How do you feel about this whole new thing, especially just pre and certainly post-pandemic? Oh, yes, we look after. Really, they don't give a monkeys about it. That's the truth. They're playing lip service.
So, Russ, you add into that, and Neil, you add into that the whole diversity, equity, inclusion thing, because again, they will say, we've now got a policy and we have people who are policing that policy and so on. But mental health, I think if there's one good thing, and I'm choosing my words carefully, that has come out of the pandemic for us, is that many more of us have been touched significantly by, let's call it, mental health and well-being. We know people who their lives have been changed over the last 3 years. And therefore, more of us are much more aware. It is a journey, Russ. I don't think big businesses are there because I think it is complex, but I think people are beginning to go, many more of us have been touched by this now. And we have to give deeper respect. If someone goes, I've been really traumatized, my family have been badly hit over these last 2 years, I need a bit of time. I think I'm beginning to see some leeway.
But Alistair, can we differentiate? I'm putting my hand straight in the hornet's nest because I don't care. Can we differentiate between I've been really traumatized because I've lost my mum, I've lost my dad, I've lost a kid, God forbid, with somebody asks you where you're from? That's not going to traumatize you. That's just a question. It's bullshit. Sorry. It's absolute bullshit. And if we're going to have diversity, by the way, diversity works both ways. Both ways. Not just one-way street. That's what I'm thinking. Coming in from the Northeast United States, it's such an international show. Azadon Brown, tip-top man in the psychotherapeutic community in America, and a great thing. Now, this is interesting. This just bears out what the three of us were just talking about. This is Elizabeth Green, who's watching live at Oh My God o'clock in Manhattan, and she says this. So much. Just joined a gym on the Upper East Side, posh, and a cultural center too. Security person was horrible. Yeah. When I met the guy in charge of enrollment, I immediately complained. Unlike you, Elizabeth, who would have thought? But there you go. It's the culture, isn't it?
It's all about culture. I honestly think this is one of the great areas that businesses are going to have to sharpen up on, and it actually relates back to your point, whether it's about mental health and well-being and the care of your people, or some form of diversity and inclusion and equity, or whatever it is. These are conversations. They just need to get better.
So, Alistair, how do we balance this up? This is because Neil and I are very meat and potato guys, as you've probably gathered. We don't deal with the theoretical. We kind of deal with, well, how does that actually work? What's the mechanics of this? After the pandemic knocked everybody for six. All right, it was a seismic tectonic change in the landscape, and it will be forever. I don't think the changes are ever going to go away. That being said, how do people who are businesses that are really struggling, that have been smacked in the head with a baseball bat because they lost 2 years of revenue, etc., how do they then find time to say, what I'm really worried about is the mental health of my employees, when they're thinking, I got to keep my business above water? How do they balance that up?
It's really interesting. So I think there are a number of things that they can be doing. So the first is managers. That we find that the problem often lies not so much with the top tier, but it's the sort of middle managers who are managing other people down, and managing with a degree of awareness and a little bit of compassion. I know we have to make money. I know we have to hit these figures, but people I think the relationship between people and business, rightly or wrongly, has changed. People are going, you know what? I think I want to stay at home. I want to work part-time. I want to do the hours that I want to do. And the shift here is not around micromanaging, which has gone.
Good.
It's around
Right.
activity. It's going, do you know what, Neil? Here's a job. Let's do it by Wednesday. When you complete that job, it's entirely up to you, but we'll sit down on Wednesday morning. You can work through the night on Monday if you like, have all Tuesday off. But Wednesday, we're going to sit down and look at what you've done. And I think that is a huge shift. Just relax, just lay off. And that will help people's well-being as well.
Wasn't one of the big changes, excuse me, wasn't one of the big changes that most corporations and businesses thought, right, you're going to be sitting at home watching Cash at the Attic, doing sod all, and I'm paying you, and the productivity of my company is going to go down the toilet. And what they actually found was completely the opposite.
Exactly.
They found the opposite. So, for example, I've got I've got 4 kids, but of the ones who are younger, one's a mechanical engineer. That's different because he kind of has to be at this huge, enormous automotive complex. But the other one's in cybersecurity at quite a high level. And he does this hybrid working thing. And at first they were nervous, but he was delivering boom, boom, boom. And they realized, that's exactly how he was. The way you've just described is exactly what he does. Project X has to be in by Y. You'll get it in by Y, but don't expect me to keep rocking up at the office, which is
but I think
as long as the work gets done, it doesn't really matter.
No, that's the point, isn't it?
If people are happier, and like you say, Alistair, it's contributing towards their well-being because they're not being micromanaged. I don't know many people that like being micromanaged, to be honest with you.
No, I totally agree.
It's the managers, to say, Neil, nonetheless.
It's the managers who feel they need the control over their people. And of course, back in the day, we all came into this thing called the office. We sat there, we sat fairly close to each other, and I could look at you and go, all right, off on a coffee break. That was a slightly longer lunch break. And so, and those days, and that's in a way what the pandemic has done, which is it's lost that. So
kind of, but you did have, you know, Neil and I've worked together for many years, and you did have a culture that was quite fun. Well, let's just say you were in a place that was quite fun to be in.
Yeah.
And I guess those days the days of advertising ain't never going to come back. We'd all be arrested on a variety of charges within an hour. But God, they were fun. But you had a sort of, you kind of look forward to going to the office and seeing your mates and having a laugh, and that kind of it's kind of gone now. Do you think, or not?
Yeah, well, it's changed, but yeah, certainly. And there are some businesses, excuse me, really struggling to try and get that camaraderie, get the people back in, spend 3 days out of 5, in the office. But I think there is a sense of loneliness amongst many people.
Yes.
And this is the other thing that I'm very involved in, which is this idea about personal purpose, and for folks to go, okay, here I am working on my own, I'm delivering all my stuff, that's fine, but I am on my own now. My team is across 17 kitchens or whatever it is. and I'm trying to make this whole thing pull it together, but we're in 17 kitchens. So
what's the sweet spot? Where's the sweet spot here?
Yeah, good question.
I think the sweet spot with this is, well, there are a number of different ones, Neil. Yeah. So some businesses are going, do you know what? We're going to take 1 week out of 8, i.e. 1 week every 2 months, and we're going to take the whole team, let's call it 30 people, smallish business, off to a hotel for 5 days. So you're all working in your own kitchens, so no one's got an office any longer, but then I pay for us all to be together, because we know that being together with each other, we build trust, we can have the bigger conversations, you can tell me to bog off, I can tell you to bog off, and you know what, that will build a sense of trust and confidence, and we get on. That's one option. Some people are just going, I just love the laissez-faire. If someone wants to come in, we come in. Other people are creating events, Bagel Tuesday, drinks on Friday.
I'm in for that. Neil in for the other one. Like that Bagel Tuesday. Yeah, Neil will do the drinks thing.
It's Neil. It's horses for courses, and some people are doing. It's got to be 3 days, but you choose the 3 days, and everyone inevitably chooses Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you've got these offices that are empty for 4 days and busy for 3. And that's
See, I live near I forgot what bloody hell it's called, Canary Wharf.
Oh, yeah.
So I look at it every day, and I see all these tens of thousands of lights on, and I'm going, who's there?
Yeah, no.
Are they all full? Because they're built. The fascinating thing is there used to be what they call Canary Wharf Tower, which I'm sure you remember, Alistair. It's dwarfed now. You can just about see it. Seriously, it's extraordinary. And that's 800 feet tall.
Wow.
I know, because I had to go on the outside of it once to the top. Long story. So I'm just wondering, they're built on their office everywhere you go through London and wherever you might be, office, and you think, who the bloody hell is going to fill all these offices that they're building? Because nobody wants them. Here's an excellent question coming in from Fife in Scotland. I read it so that on Deluxe Radio they can hear it, because they don't see us, they just see us. And hi to everybody on Deluxe Radio. Yeah. I wish Neil, would you do me a favor and read this? I'd be so grateful. Oh, hello, Neil. You gone mute. You gone mute.
Sorry about that. Susli says, I wish micromanagement had left social care. My friends who are still working within the structure tell me it's getting worse and their mental health is getting worse.
Yes.
Well, I
what
do
would you
think...
describe? Go on, after you. I've got a question
Well,
for you.
I was going to say, I do think this rests with managers, whatever level they are. They're in the middle. They feel squeezed. They feel responsible for delivering. We've got to do, but that they also want to get ahead. So they want to be seen to be doing the right kind of thing. And the way to do that often is control. And that's what micromanaging feels like. It's the wrong thing, as we know.
Couldn't agree
but
more.
I'm very sorry.
Couldn't agree more. But they've got their own.
So, I mean, what's the main difference, do you think, between a toxic culture and a culture that people really want to be in?
Well,
like you and I wouldn't know. No, Neil.
We had a bit of both. It was a culture everybody wants to be in, but it did have an aspect that was toxic.
Neil and I worked at a company, very famous.
Right.
We both had high profiles there. I'm not boasting, it was just a fact, because we were the face of the company, if you like, along with other people who were much more famous than we would ever be. And when it started, it was absolutely glorious. It was like a family. Got sold to a big corporate, slave to the share price, slave to the city, and the atmosphere was repulsive. And it went from glorious to horrible. Okay. But we wanted the job, so we just kept our heads down and kept working. So we're very used to, we've lived it, we've lived it.
It could be incredibly exciting and stimulating, but equally it could be very brutal. As Russ says, it was a slave to the figures and toxic. And I noticed an awful lot more businesses, they're becoming, if the right word is, a little bit more enlightened in the sense that they're seeing a happy workforce is a productive one.
Yep.
And so if they're putting a high value on the happiness of their staff, a natural consequence of that would be a much more productive company, right?
So a great quote from an old employer of mine at Unilever, actually. He used to say, miserable people deliver miserable results.
Oh, look at that.
So
let's back that up. Miserable.
I know.
Yeah.
But
empowerment and trust.
I think the secret to your... Sorry, do you want to...
Yeah, just say what Ramsey's saying, because Ramsey, he keeps his hides his light under a bushel, but he's a very big deal, but he never talks about it. Empowerment and trust is the counter to micromanagement, which is counterproductive and toxic.
Correct.
Damn right.
The way we talk about it, you'd say, what's the difference between a good culture and a toxic culture? I always like to think about culture as this I don't know, call it a dance or so. Its culture is always leader led. It has to be. It has to come from the top. But then it's people driven. And it flips, because they'll lead it, but then your people. If it's just top down, it's dictatorship. If it's just bottom up, it's a revolution. You need that thing. But in the middle are those ambassadors.
It's the sweet spot.
Those ambassadors, those champions, and people with no particular status or title, but they just get the culture. They love the business, they get it. And if you give them the freedom to express themselves and go, I'd like to set up a employee resource group around mental health or whatever it is, so that we can talk about it ourselves in the business, great. If they feel they've got the permission. And I think permission is a really interesting word, because
they're scared. Don't you
role
think
models.
that, I could sum most of mental health in businesses from what my dad used to say. He was a man of few words, let me tell you. He was dragged out of school at 14 to drive lorries. I am not
Oh, wow.
joking. So he was not an educated man, but he was a far from stupid man. And he would say, a company stinks, a fish stinks from the head. And that's what Pop would say. A fish stinks from the head. You know that. And it's true. The people at the top, if they're horrible, it permeates and cascades down. And if they're nice, it gives a better, we can feel it. As you so rightly said, you walk into the reception area and you think, this place is great. You think, I can't wait to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
A lot of great quotes coming in. Can I just, Neil, would you be
Please.
so kind as to read them? I'll pop them up on screen and we read them, as I said, for Deluxe Radio, 70,000 people over there so listening right now. This is from Dave Sleet up in Fife in Scotland.
Says companies that get psychological awareness into the DNA of their selection, induction and retention will always survive.
Yep.
And then from New York, we have this coming in from Manhattan.
It says, and office politics were horrible. I remember talking my son through being in his first office, much harder than actually getting the job done. Well, the irony is not lost on me there.
And then we've got E. Phantom from Transylvania.
It amazes me how toxic behaviour can be known and tolerated by management. Yes,
because they don't care. I think the thing is, E. Phantom, they don't give a damn. They don't care.
Well,
now, Alistair, do you want to hang for a bit? Are you rushing off? Because we've got another guest coming on a totally different subject, but I think you will. I think you might enjoy this. I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm thinking you might.
There's a lot of people tuning in for this moment, Russ. I can tell you, there's been quite a furore on Facebook.
Dirty bastards. Aidan Brown from northeastern United States, watching and listening now. An excellent book, Snakes in Suits. Oh my God, I love that. Absolutely love that. Ramsey, we'll come back to your thing anyway. This is, oh my God. Now, I've got to ask you this before we bring on the thing. Snakes in Suits, when psychopaths go to work. Alistair, before we bring on our next guest.
Yes.
And Neil and I are both thinking about exactly the same person. I know that. I'm not saying anything. Neil and I both know where this is going.
Okay.
How many times, and I've had two business partners, nothing to do with this, but I'm not talking about my current situation. One's now dead and one sadly is not. I've had two business partners, both of them were psychopaths. Right. I realized subsequently they were quite literally psychopaths. Right. Appalling behavior, quite mad. Why is that so prevalent?
So one of the things I think is interesting, one of the other journeys that I'm on, which is this coaching journey around finding your purpose and so on, is around self-knowledge, self-awareness and self-discovery. Now, did you know at the time that they were psychopaths, or were you working with them?
No.
It became clear, you could read
they presented, I'll deal with one person, someone you don't know, Neil. I'll deal with one person who was a business partner who presented as great and was absolutely terrific, built the business up, and then, oh my God, what the hell have I got into here? I walked away eventually.
See, Russ, I would suggest that they would not be completely aware of how they're presenting themselves, they're so focused, so driven on the idea that they've lost touch with themselves.
Lost touch with reality is what happened eventually. And they drove the company, after I left, they drove it straight to the ground.
You've used a very key word here, self-awareness, and you've used the word purpose, and that's right up my street. Yeah. I've only known you for half an hour, but it seems like you are a man right on purpose. You know who you are, you know what you're about, and you're walking the path, which is fantastic. And we need people like you. People like you are lighthouses, and
Damn
can
right.
wake us all up and go, wait a minute, we need to be thinking about our purpose as well. So
But
well done.
You see, I think your station, you have a very clear purpose. I can see it.
Yes,
I've gone
yes,
to the
we do.
website. I understand exactly
we
what
do.
it is that you. But I think most of us don't know what our purpose is. I think most of the time, if we're lost or stuck or unfulfilled or unsatisfied or unhappy, we're running from something. That's where
Yes.
the energy is. We're running away from this awful thing over here. What we want to do is to help people run towards a light, towards something that
Beautifully
is
said.
purposeful. And that's
Beautifully
a
said.
completely different
It's very
energy.
much in the field of mindfulness. There's a concept of turning towards something rather than running away from it. It's getting beyond those attachments and aversions, isn't it? And just being.
You want to know our
and when
purpose? It's this.
Speak up, don't man up.
Yes.
And actually, talking about
And
exploration.
I'm so thick. I'm sorry, Neil, and we must bring on our next guest. I'm so thick, I can't remember who the hell sent it. So whoever sent me this T-shirt, and I've still got yours, Neil. Thank you. I can't find.
I love it.
Find
Speaking of
Right.
exploration, though, and self-exploration, that leads us very nicely. That's a lovely segue into our next guest.
Very good.
God, it's almost like you're professional. And
Almost, isn't
frankly,
it?
that's a bit of a worry. And I don't know why the hell. I don't know how you do that. Right. Okay, I'm taking a leap of faith here, gang. I got to tell you, taking a little bit of a leap of faith with our next guest, because this could go really great or it could go Christ knows. Anyway, she is had me at the name straight away, ladies and gentlemen, Erica Storm.
Hello, my
Hello,
darling.
Erica. How are you?
Hello, Erica. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, my
Oh,
darling.
it's a pleasure. I'm either very clever or very brave or very stupid. It's one of the
All of the above.
Well, probably. I am
Now,
not even
Erica,
going to
I'm
attempt
absolutely,
to introduce you.
I'm intrigued because I did a bit of research. So I've done a bit of online stalking in the best kind of way, and I've learned all about you and what you do. Oh, grow up, Russ.
You grow up. You grow up.
And you've lived in South London for forever, and I live in South London. How have we actually not met, Erica? How is this?
She's avoided you like the bloody plague. That's why. Neil. She's not
But
stupid.
Neil, do you know what's going to happen now? I'm
What?
going to
What?
see you now. I'm going to see you whilst I'm walking
When
my dog
Tesco's.
or in Aldi. Oh no, I don't go to Tesco's. Tesco's is too expensive for me, Ross. I like
Where'd
my
you go?
Aldi all the way.
I'm a little man myself. I like little. I like Aldi as well. Christ.
Do you know
This
what
is where
this
we
is
go,
called?
Alistair. This is where we go. This is the deep psychological interpretations that we have. These are you an Aldi?
And you know,
Tesco, the prices in Tesco have gone through the bloody roof. You're right.
Indeed.
Anyway, neither here nor there. Tell us about yourself, Eric.
Yes, we haven't brought this lovely lady on to talk about Tesco.
No, we
Come on,
have.
let's
Maybe
get-
she's a Tesco's
Definitely
expert
not
as well.
from Tesco's.
You don't know.
As you rightly said, my name is Miss Erica Storm. I am
Yep.
the founder of the Strut Masterclass, which teaches women how to walk correctly in their high heel shoes and to teach them how to own their space, how to build their body confidence, and to show up as their authentic self. I'm also the founder. Are you ready, boys? For the
I'm holding
power
on to
of
my
the
hat.
Pussy Retreat.
Say that again slowly, just so I can say we had it on the radio.
Power of the Pussy Retreat.
That's what I thought you said, yes.
Yes, pussy
Okay.
power all
Please
the
just
way.
stayed, Alistair. I knew you would be. See?
Are you still with me, Alistair? Are you still
I
with me?
am.
Alistair's going to be putting on his hats in a minute, the ones behind him. Hold on.
Yeah, so let me tell you more about the Power of the Pussy Retreat.
Oh, please do. Please, for the love
Yes,
of
we're
God,
actually
tell us.
at the moment, we're going to be filming a wonderful documentary on my retreat. We do sensual yoga, helping women release sexual trauma from their body, to release any kind of limited beliefs that they feel about themselves, and to help them to connect their mind to their body. Some of the women that I work with feel very disconnected from their body. So sensual yoga, using breath, teaching them about orgasmic breathing is just a great way to tap into your body. For me personally, I'm a qualified yoga teacher as well as a confidence coach and a trainee psychosexual therapist. But the reason why I fell in love with yoga is because, unfortunately, I got diagnosed with fibroids, endometriosis, PMDD.
So what were those initials, Erica? What were those initials again? No, I didn't catch it. What was it? It's important.
So I've got fibroids,
Yes,
polycystic
horrible.
ovaries,
Yeah.
endometriosis, and PMDD, which is a bit like PMS, but they say it's the severe version of it. So what this means is that my hormones, as everyone's hormones, plays a huge impact in how I feel mentally. And I've been struggling with this for many, many years. And I have to say, I left feeling extremely distraught when the doctor said the only thing that they can give me is antidepressants,
Right.
or to put me on the contraception pill. Now, on one hand, they're saying to me, okay, you know, we might have to give you a hysterectomy, so we need you to hurry up and have children. But then they're saying to me, well, take these birth control pills for the fibroids, right? And then some research shows that being on contraception actually fills the fibroid. So there again, I'm at a loss. And antidepressants, I think, is great if you're depressed, but I have an hormone imbalance, right? So I had to go back to self and be like, okay, I'm going to go on this journey of self-healing. And that's when I fell in love with yoga, you know, because many women who have endometriosis might have painful sex. And I feel like no one's talking about it. And there's so much shame around women's health. And I just really wanted to create a safe space where women can feel sexy, sensual, and empowered to learn about their body.
There's so much shame around sex in general, isn't there?
Absolutely, Neil. Absolutely.
Because you're a former, we can talk about this, can't we? What you did before, yeah?
Absolutely.
Painter and
So
decorator.
you're a former dominatrix, right?
Yes.
And I was intrigued by that because I looked at your website and you explained how you got into it and how it made you feel and all that sort of stuff. And I thought the words you were using, it's about self-acceptance. It's about exploring yourself. It's about expressing yourself. And in a society, we seem to be so screwed up on this because in one sense, sex is used to sell everything. And in the other sense, we were told it's bad. Keep away from it as much as you can. Therefore, I'm not surprised so many people have got trauma or are out of touch with their bodies because they're just not allowed to express it.
Absolutely. Well, express it the way that society tells you to express it.
Exactly. So anything that's a bit left field, like BDSM or something like that, people are going to immediately spring to judgment. But I actually read a study that people in BDSM relationships had healthier relationships than the normal relationship model, because if you're doing stuff like that, the levels of openness, trust and communication have to be massive. And if the levels of openness, trust and communication are massive, chances are that relationship's going to be really good. So that made sense to me. That made an awful lot of sense to me. But it's not so much what you're into. It doesn't bother me, but it's what other people would think of it. So we're trying to avoid other people's judgments all the time. And that stops us turning inwards and saying, well, what floats my boat? What do I like? Am I right?
Yeah. Yes. My advice is don't worry about what other people think about you. Just worry about how you think and feel about yourself. And one of the reasons why my mission was so successful is not just because I was creating a space for women to come and learn to become a professional dominatrix, but it was a space where people can come and accept who they are, to accept, okay, this is my kink. And that self-acceptance, right? Especially when you can accept if you have a kink or fetish or your fantasies or your desires, because it's the most vulnerable part of us. And once we're able to accept that for ourselves, then be able to communicate that with a partner or a lover, then that frees us, right? So that's
from
why.
A place of self-acceptance.
Also, I guess the central part of this, Erica, is it's nobody else's damn business.
Absolutely.
And that's how I go through life. You know, if people wanted to come and see you in the past, in your former career, what's it got to do with me? Absolutely none of my damn business at all. Good luck to them. What the hell? I mean, don't you think?
Absolutely. Listen, honey, if the price is right, I'll put on my thigh-high boots and you can call me Madam Storm again. It's okay. I am here for it.
I put that money away for yogurt this week. Otherwise I will.
Yes.
Well, I finished at 1, Erica.
Yeah. Can you get round? Can you pop round to Neil's in New Malden?
Oh, New Malden, you're very local, Neil.
Oh Jesus, I knew it.
Seriously, are we practically neighbours, Erica? I feel a serendipitous meeting coming on here.
Next he's going to be asking Erica, next is going to be asking for a group discount. You can see this a mile off. I can see what's going to happen here. Do you go to East Sussex
no.
ever? Because otherwise,
No,
Alistair's going to be like
we
thinking,
don't
wait
do
a minute, I'm moving back to
discounts down here,
London.
my darling. You're going to have to save up. You're going to have to save up.
Another thing which I thought was really, really interesting is there's a lot of teachers, I suppose, like yourself, who are wonderful teachers like yourself, who are teaching this whole subject of sex, and they're teaching things which are really important. When I look back on it, was not in my sex education at all at school. Things like you might say are important, like relationship, consent. That's big. Pleasure, communication, boundaries, and all these new teachings seem to be coming out. Are embracing all that, and I think that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, and again, just jumping back to BDSM, this is where I started, right? I started working with couples, helping couples introduce kink into the relationship. And you've just said it, Neil. We talk about boundaries. We talk about consent. We talk about constantly checking in with your partner.
Yeah, which is why these kind of relationships can be healthier than the traditional model. Because that communication isn't there.
Because communication is so important. And I find that a lot of couples and individuals inside the BDSM world and outside the BDSM world, they have this fear of ruining the moment. I don't want to tell him or her or they that it doesn't feel great because I don't want to ruin the moment. And it's like, actually, that partner is there for the enjoyment of your enjoyment. And there's no shame in saying,
Erica,
I don't like
what would
this.
happen in the middle? What would happen? I'm walking straight to a minefield here, but here we go. What would happen if, say there's somebody in a relationship and one person is interested in what you used to do, right? And the other person thinks it's absolutely horrendous. It's not for them. How does that, like I was saying with Alistair, how do you balance these things up? Because life, you try and find the sweet spot, no pun intended. How does that work? How would that work in a theoretical relationship? Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Okay, so what I was into, I'm still very much into. I still like kink. I am still very much active. I'm just.
I think Ray Davis is one of our finest writers. I think you're. Oh, I've misunderstood.
He doesn't mean you don't mean the kinks, Russ.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant like you really got me and Lola and all day and all of the night. Move on.
I can only apologize.
Sorry.
It just when I say former dominatrix, it just means I'm no longer practicing as a professional dominatrix. But
doesn't everyone have a bit of a kink? I mean, there's kinks. People can have kinks on absolutely anything. Surely everyone does. And if they say they're not, they're lying. Surely.
Not necessarily, no, because you have some people like asexuals that may not want any sort of pleasure. And I think we have to be careful of generalizing things. And I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that we do. And then there's somebody out there going, oh, but that means I'm not normal because that person said everybody does. So I tend to stay away from those.
You see, Erica, that dreadful N word, normal.
Normal.
What
Absolutely.
the hell? What, Erica? What is normal? There's no such thing. I mean,
there's no
Alistair, would you agree? This like normal is like you can't really apply
it's whatever feels good for you. I think that we are conditioned by society, by culture, by religion, and they've projected upon us what is right and what is wrong, how to have sex, how to feel pleasure, when to feel pleasure.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree, and it is completely wrong. And it's completely wrong. The phrase that springs to mind, Erica, is cutting the person to fit the cloth, because the fact is we're all different. And I think most people, not just sexually, but in any way, want to be fully expressed. And everyone, like a diamond, has got absolutely unique facets. And we live in such a judgmental society. What was that awful meme that came from America, in the sort of conservative America? It was awful. What was it? It was along the lines of sex is dirty and nasty, so save it for the person that you love. How does that even make sense?
It makes great sense.
It doesn't. Look, this is my very strong point on this.
Go on.
Especially when you're discussing it with friends, because usually you want to kind of explore this with, your boys or your girls or, your friends or your family. And it's really important that the person listening doesn't shame the other person. Okay. I really want to make that very clear. Going back to your question, Ross, just because I like spanking, it doesn't mean that John has to like spanking, but that doesn't mean that John has to make me feel embarrassed about or shameful about spanking. All John has to say is, okay, I respect that. That's your thing. That's not for me. And that's
Don't yuck
okay.
anyone else's yum.
Exactly.
Everyone else is what?
Don't yuck anyone else's yum. I completely agree with you, Erica.
Yeah.
Do you make
And
this
I
stuff
just
up
wanna-
on
Their
a
own
daily
without substance.
basis? Neil,
I
do you
just
make
want
this
to
stuff
cover
on a daily
Ross's
basis or
question
what?
because Ross, you had a very good question that you asked me, and I really want to answer it for you
Okey-dokey.
and for the listeners regarding relationships. If one person's into kink or fetish and the other person isn't, it's really important that you have an open communication with your partner, and it's okay not to be involved in kink as well as it is okay to be involved in kink. Just because that person is your partner, it doesn't mean that person owes you anything. What I would say as a relationship, explore it together, have open conversations about it together. And sometimes you might find that the partner just has some ideas of what they think it is, which is very different to what it actually is, right? Because of porn, TV shows, they're not showing the true light of what kink and BDSM is. It can be very, very sensual, which is why I have a play apartment, because couples sometimes don't want to go to a dungeon because that feels very cold and overwhelming. So my play apartment is more sensual. There's shibari, there's candles.
There's what?
Shibari, which
That's
is
rope,
rope
isn't it?
play, candle
I thought it
play.
was like a buffet.
And again,
You see where my mind goes. I'm thinking, oh, she's got a buffet, and this is like some sort of fantastic.
I definitely
got a
right.
buffet of
I
things,
would
Russ.
just go there if there's like a buffet, then I could leave. I thought shibari was like some sort of fabulous sushi.
Oh,
Because
it is
apparently
fabulous.
weren't the BDSM
It's
community up in
absolutely
arms
fabulous.
about 50 Shades of Grey because they said it just showed abuse and misogyny, and that's really nothing about what it's about. Quite the opposite. Is that a right thing to say?
I would say that we have to understand that these movies are movies, right? Just like how they make movies about a lot of things, don't they? About FBI, about high school. It is a movie. And as I think it's good that we have these movies because then we can have conversations like this, right? And then people who wouldn't usually have these sorts of conversations at the pub or, around at your friend's dinner, you're now having these conversations because of these shows. But I really want to highlight that it's there for entertainment. And if you really want to know what BDSM is, what it is to be a dominatrix, what it is to be a sub, then do your research and hire a professional.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. It's slightly off topic, but it is something which is universally important. Pornography is everywhere, and it always amazes me that America is like one of the most religious places in the world, and yet it is the global center for producing pornography. So there's a fantastic disconnect if you think about it. But they say that if people watch a lot of pornography, they become blunted or immune, and they assume, especially I'm talking about mainly young people. You say it's their first experience of watching what sex is supposed to be, whatever supposed to be means. They watch that and they assume that when they meet, Doreen from the sweet shop or whatever, it's going to be like that. Well, of course it isn't, but they become less and less easy to impress. Do you think it skews people's views of relationships?
I think that some people have found porn very useful and other people have found porn very harmful. And that's where I sit on it.
I think there's a documentary about it. There's a pornography producer called Erica Lust, if you're pardon the pun. I'm not trying to be funny.
Yeah.
And she is at the forefront of so-called ethical porn, which is not porn depicting men constantly brutalizing women and the women always supposed to take it and be up for it and needs no foreplay, no turn on, just like a caveman grab and go.
Not even a coffee.
And she's the opposite, where that all the scenes are agreed on, people are paid fair wages and all that sort of thing, and they actually show women taking pleasure in it as well as just the men. And this is the forefront of this new kind of porn, I suppose, called ethical porn. And I think that's a good idea. And in that context, it could be useful, couldn't it? It could be educational, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe.
But what I do find gentlemen, is that the clients that I work with, I feel like we're so stimulated by outside information. And how I work is I work from within, connecting with yourself. What feels good to you? Explore your body for yourself, touch yourself, explore what turns you on mentally, physically, emotionally. That's pleasure. Because sometimes, even though the content might be educational, they still can view it as a performance. And sex isn't a performance, right? Like right now, everyone's really obsessed with how do I get an orgasm? Okay, but how about we just turn our intentions on how does it feel in my body? Why am I having sex?
We can learn so much through the body, can't we? It's all about coming. It's all about,
Absolutely.
Because there's not much on TV.
they say some people, there's this term, are kind of dead from the neck down, that we're up in our heads all the time. And you know, again, many wonderful people like yourself, they're doing this more embodiment and practicing yoga, meditation, breath work.
Yeah, breath work is amazing.
BDSM, you know, it will all get you back into the present moment one way or another, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's
Have
why
you heard of a book called Shameless by Pamela Madsen?
No.
She's gone. Something I said.
Yeah. Oh, hello. Am I running the show? I don't know. On my screen, everybody has just disappeared.
I've no idea why. No idea why.
Hello.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Back.
If you wanted me to leave, you only had to ask.
I would have said, Erica, lovely to see you. Bye. I would have
the thing
said,
is, you and Russ disappeared. I was like, can't you wait till 1 o'clock, Russ? Dude,
no, I got things to do. I got to be round at Erica's by 1:30.
And we left poor Alistair in charge of the show. You did very well.
And I'll be honest with you, the buses are a bit slow. I'm more interested. You know, it's kind of interesting about there is a connection here between our first guest, Alistair, and you, which is all about trust. One with you, Erica, is trust in a physical relationship. You can call it romantic, call it what you like, but physical relationship, I think, is a easier term. And Alistair, you trust in the workplace. In other words, trust the fact that the people whose salaries you are paying are not going to just mess about when they're not in the office, but can actually produce what they're required to do. And I think there really is a correlation there.
Well, Russ, I'd like to build a bridge between myself and Erica in a way, because I think actually the addition to that is trusting yourself. And I think a lot of people don't trust themselves in whatever situations, whether it's a personal or a professional, whether it's within their families, or it's about their present, or it's about their future. And I think you need to go on these journeys. So with Erica, you're going on a journey of discovering more, whether it's as a partnership or on your own. And with us and our work around purpose, you're going on a journey. And both of our journeys are positive journeys.
Yep.
Yep. They're not looking back and going, oh, this is rubbish, or I'm running away from something.
Yeah, but both of you, as our guests today, I mean, I said that about you earlier, Alistair, that you seem really on purpose and on point. And Erica, I've researched your story a bit and the stuff you studied and all that sort of stuff. And I've done NLP too, by the way, so we're similar in that sense. But you absolutely exude confidence and positivity. You've got this absolute radiant energy, and people like you that have been on these journeys, both of you seem to have that. You could call it self-realized. Is that the closest I can get to it? Or self-realizing?
I think for me, everything that I do, you can see my DNA in it, because I had to grow through certain things, right? So my strut masterclass, I was bullied. I went to 7 different schools because I'm tall. So I taught myself how to own my space, self-acceptance. I accept who I am in this body as a tall Black woman. This is who I am. Okay. Then you have the mistress training saying, like, fuck what you think. I'm a woman. I love power. Power turns me on. I'm into kink, and I love being a professional mistress. So that's where that came from. Then the sensual yoga, again, that's about healing, but also balancing out the feminine divine energy with your masculine energy as well. Trust in your body and knowing that you are enough, because you can't live in your purpose unless you know that you are enough. You can't seek pleasure unless you feel that you deserve that in your life.
And
Do you
how
know,
many people do you
Erica, I'm
think don't?
Erica, I'm gonna jump in. It's something that Neil talks about a lot, and it's a huge theme on the Daily Show, and runs right throughout men's radio, which is just being comfortable in your own skin.
Yep.
Two, not always not trying to live through other people's standards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, you know, this whole dictatorial attitude of you've got to do,
Yes.
you've got to do that.
Self-esteem, not
Obviously,
other
don't
esteem.
drive at 90 miles an hour in a 20 mile an hour zone. Of course, I get that.
Right.
But otherwise, a lot of it is nonsense. And really, it shouldn't, you know, we are individuals and we should be treated. Alistair, you're dying to say something. I can
Well,
see.
it's just there's a word that Erica mentioned much earlier, which is about ashamed, feeling ashamed and embarrassed. And I think it was someone like Brené Brown, the great Brené Brown, talked about men's, and you'll correct me, but men's great sort of Achilles heel is feeling ashamed, feeling embarrassed about whatever, right?
Yeah.
And women's Achilles heel is about the desire, I think this is right, to be perfect, or the fear of being imperfect at whatever it is. You could argue it flows both ways. But you know what? I think this idea of being embarrassed and ashamed is actually comes back to your show's purpose, which is to get people to talk.
Yeah.
And Erica, you've talked about this very eloquently. You know, we need to have the conversation, and you sometimes, often, I'm sure, facilitate that conversation about relationships and about sex and about that interchange.
Before the authorities kicked us all off 5 minutes ago, I was just talking about a book. It's Shameless by Pamela Madsen. Really recommend that, because that's about a woman on her own journey. Erica, I think you would absolutely love that. It's worth looking up. Pamela Madsen, Shameless. It's a great story, and it's a true story as well. And it'll very much chime with what you do, I think, as well.
Erica, we've only got very little time left. So just give me a helicopter view, if you would, of how do you teach people to be more confident?
Come on, darling. You can't give me 2 minutes and ask me to explain that.
Well, I just did.
No, we're going to have to get you back.
And now you're eating into the time that was allocated.
We're going to have to do a whole show on kink. Sorry.
No, yes, so a few top
look at him. He's all happy now. His little face is all lit up.
Looking at themselves in the mirror, and I give them tools such as body worship. So body worship is touch with affirmations. So an example would be, I love my arms, I love my breasts. Getting the individual to look at their genitals in the mirror, to feel safe with themselves, first and foremost. Then we move on to the inside, the mindset. How do you view yourself? What thoughts are yours and what thoughts are projected from your family, society, religion, culture? So I don't just look at the outside, because I don't believe fake it till you make it. I don't care whoever said it. I think Rihanna said it. I couldn't care. It could be Beyonce herself. I don't believe in faking confidence or faking orgasms or faking happiness. Work on self. Look after yourself. Drink water, eat your fruits, exercise, and move your body. And tell yourself how much you love yourself.
Where does the fruit come into this?
Oh my God! I mean,
it's your 5 a day.
Did you not say I'm glowing, darling?
You are glowing. I thought it was your lighting. You're glowing here.
There's no lighting. It's the fruits. You know, I eat electrical foods. Fruits are good for me. It's good for my womb. It's good for my pussy. Eat your fruits.
Okay. So I'm on a carnivore. Well, yeah, but Erica, here's the problem. I'm on a carnivore diet, so that's not going to work for me. No, I am.
You need a fast. You need to go on a fast.
I am I do intermittent fasting every single day.
You're getting some incredible comments, Erica. People are absolutely loving you, and I think it's.
I think we have to get you back.
I think
we have to get you both back. We have to get you both back.
We'd like to have you both back.
I've got to get Alistair back, because that's the most charming setting of any guest we've ever had. I absolutely love it, and there is so much more to explore.
It's like a lovely little cabin in a boat, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was thinking of a gorgeous little cottage somewhere. Erica, you were
Yes.
going to come back. That's not a threat. That's just a question, really. By the way.
I would love to come back.
Don't want to be prescriptive about that. How fantastic guests you've been great. Neil, you've been Neil. I'm sorry about the. Take care. Neil and I will be back on Wednesday. Until then,
No, you'll be back on Wednesday.
Oh, you're not? Yeah, I'm back on Wednesday, probably on my own. All right. God bless everybody. Take care. Try and stay
Bye.
out for 5 minutes. Bye,
Mwah.
gang.